Hello everyone, Spooky Muck here with a guide on how to play the support Scourge. This will teach you the basics of how to support a group as a necromancer through shields, pseudo-healing, and endless revives. We're done when I say we're done. A quick note for the elitists, this is aimed at players who are learning. This is not the build that the top 0.01% of players use, so bite my smooth aquadynamic Asura Heine. Let's continue. Here's the recommended build. Blood Magic. The free trait Lesser Mark of Blood drops a mark similar to Staff 2 when you dodge. If you do it on the boss, it will trigger immediately and drop regeneration on your allies. Note that it has an 8-second cooldown. Don't just dodge constantly and lose all of your endurance. If you choose to use this as much as possible, just do it whenever your endurance bar is full and it will be available. Ritual of Life. Mandatory. When you start reviving someone, it will summon a lesser version of the Well of Blood heal skill underneath them, which then begins reviving everyone nearby. Combined with Transfusion, which pulls downstate allies together, this can help revive a lot of people. Additionally, note the wording, Wells of Blood Revive. This also affects your normal Well of Blood heal skill. So if you pull downstates together, use the Well of Blood heal skill, then revive someone, which triggers the lesser Well of Blood, it is very easy to revive 10 plus people at once. Vampiric Presence adds a bit of damage and healing to our allies, and the effect is increased while in Shroud. For a Scourge, the Desert Shroud button counts as this, so whenever you activate it, you will activate the buffed version of Vampiric Presence for the duration. Some prefer the Life from Death in this trait line. It is a viable option, just not my preference. Last Rites is worth mentioning here for newbies. Nearby allies don't bleed out. You know when you go downstate and your life bar is slowly ticking down? That doesn't happen when a blood magic user is nearby, making reviving much easier and you have much more time to save people. Transfusion. Mandatory. This makes Shroud 4, which is Garish Pillar, pulse out healing, revive, and pull nearby downstates to your location. This skill has some powerful tricks. It can pull allies to you at any time during its duration, so if you activate it and run toward a downstate ally, it will pull them the moment you are in range. Allies can be pulled more than once, but there is a short cooldown of about 6 seconds before they can be pulled again. It is possible for a single transfusion to pull someone, and then pull them a second time before it wears off of you. I'll talk more on tricks involving transfusion later. Soul Reaping, aka the Life Force trait line. Taking this trait line will remove most of your life force issues, allowing you to spam your skills much more often. Soul Marks for our staff skills. If you have no intention of using a staff, then take one of the other options here. Vital Persistence, gain vitality and some incoming healing. The vitality helps us with our life force, more on that soon. Eternal Life, constantly gain life force when not in Shroud up to 66%. This means if you are under 66% life force, this trait will be helping fill you back up constantly. Scourge.
Well, duh.
Abrasive Grit. Whenever you give allies a barrier, you also give them might. Desert Empowerment. Whenever you cast your Sand Shade, you put a barrier on allies, plus the earlier might. Combined with the next trait, this will hit 10 targets. Another option in this trait line, some people will take Harbinger Shroud, which makes your 17-second cooldown Shroud ability do a larger barrier on detonation. While viable, I much prefer the barrier on recast of Shade, as you can hold 3 charges of Shade, which is a lot more barrier on demand, and yes, they stack if needed. Sand Savant. This trades your little Shade that you can have 3 of at a time for 1 Giga Chad Shade that affects more targets. If you're standing in a raid with the Savant Shade down, all of our Shade abilities will hit 10 targets. Skills. Well of Blood, or some will tell you to take Sand Flare. Now, Sand Flare is a great skill. It's a massive barrier that is almost on demand. But if you time it wrong, it does nothing. If the group gets hit hard, then you use it a moment late, the barrier doesn't help anyone. But the well pulses out many heals and revives with our traits, making it good whether you are good at timing abilities or not. If you had perfect reflexes, Flare would probably pull ahead. For the rest of us mere mortals, Well of Blood is fantastic, and getting a 9-man res with it feels amazing. Skipping over to the ultimate for a second, Flesh Golem almost 100% of the time. He offers constant minor damage and healing with our traits and can be activated for his charge for a big CC when you need to hit a boss's break bar. Utility options. Always Signet of Undeath. It gives constant life force regen and in an emergency can revive someone 900 range away. Almost always Blood is Power. It does a sizable bleed on the enemy. Might for your allies holds 2 charges. Anytime you use it, try to follow up with your staff 4 to move the bleeds that it puts on you to the enemy, so they get bleeding 2 times. Or you can use Shroud F2 if Staff 4 is on cooldown to cure the bleeding. The last utility slot I change constantly. Here's what I often use. Trail of Anguish. Movement speed, stun break, some damage, and stability to me and anyone in my path. Very helpful for certain fights, and my favorite stun break. Note, there appears to be no target limit. I had a raid stack up and use this on them, and it did hit all 10 of them. I believe it operates like the Druid Staff 5. As long as it makes contact, it works. Epidemic. Take all conditions on the boss and copy-paste them to 5 nearby enemies at half strength. This is huge. Imagine a boss with a ton of people hitting it and copying its debuffs to nearby adds. Most of them just die. It is important to note that all the copied effects scale with your condition damage, so if you have no condition damage on your gear, the conditions will be weak. Corrupt Boon. Doing content where the enemies have lots of boons, such as some fractals or raid bosses? Well, the Necro already has ways of dealing with boons on many of its weapons, but this offers even more boon removal on demand should you require it. No one likes hitting a mob with protection on it. Spectral Grasp. Basically, on 5 enemies. This has longer range than Epidemic and not limited to having condition damage on your team. Sometimes the best way to kill adds is simply pull them all into your teammates. See this? This is what was shooting you. Now hit it. Good boy. Who's a good DPS? You are. Yes, you are. Trail, Epidemic, Corrupt Boon, and Spectral Grasp are what I rotate through constantly on that last utility slot. Equipment. There are a lot of gear sets that work, including Minstrel, except when you need Epidemic, Plague Doctors for sort of a half healing, half DPS build, and the current endgame build of half Marshals, half Shamans. Shamans. Whatever. I really like full Shaman's gear. Your life force scales off your vitality, meaning having high vitality means that you can spam your life force skills in combat without running out of juice. Additionally, since all skills that generate life force work off a percentage, that means that vitality basically increases your life force generation as well. The healing power on Shaman gear is 80% or so of what the highest healing power gear is, and the condition damage is obvious. We don't need precision in this build because we aren't using curses, which helps your conditions scale with precision. And we aren't using Sigil of Water, which heals on crits. We're using Runes of Mercy for those fat revives, Sigil of Transference for more outgoing heals, Sigil of Renewal. Sigil of Renewal does the exact same heal that Sigil of Water does, but it operates on weapon swap instead of on crit, so we don't have to worry about precision gear, and it's one less stat we have to think about. Scepter, Torch, and Staff. When in Staff, spam 2 on the enemy to apply regen to your raid, spam 3, save 4 for after you've done Mark of Blood to give the enemy your bleeds, and save Staff 5 for break bars unless you really just need more life force, but that is going to be rare if you're copying this setup to the letter. Weapon swap to trigger Sigil of Renewal whenever you need to heal allies, or if you just need to weapon swap. Scepter 3, top priority if you need to remove some boons. Torch 4 generates life force. Torch 5 is might generation and a hard crowd control with a 2-second knockdown. Note, when you're breaking enemies' break bars, use the Golem's charge first. It has a long animation and you need to get that thing started, then fire off your other casts such as Torch 5, Shade Fear F4, or Staff 5 Fear. If you do the Golem skill last, it may not finish in time. Extra tips and tricks. With Eternal Life, Signet of Undeath, and our very high vitality, we should be able to spam shade skills as much as we want. If you are in a fight where a downstate ally will die in seconds, an example of this is the Bone Skinner, where if you go downstate from a puddle, the puddle will kill you while in downstate very rapidly. Save your Garish Pillar to pull allies out of the bad, then revive them. Remember, Garish Pillar into Well of Blood, or Lesser Well of Blood, or both, is a very strong multi-target revive. If you are on fights where people won't die rapidly from downstate, Spooky Muck says spam Transfusion for the healing. It does 9 pulses of healing over a very wide area, which definitely adds up. It will still pull people if they go downstate unexpectedly, just make sure you aren't standing in something stupid yourself. By keeping your F1 Shade on the group and spamming Shade skills, you can easily maintain 5,000 plus barrier per second on the raid. Plus, your regeneration from the staff and dodge Marks of Blood, your healing from Transfusion and Well of Blood, your constant heals from Vampiric Presence will all be crunching along for a lot of support. You will be quite durable yourself due to your absurd health pool and can revive anyone who goes down, even if you have to briefly stand bad stuff yourself. Also remember that your F2 through F5 skills don't have casting animations, meaning you can use them while reviving people or doing anything else. Broken! If you think anyone is about to go down, you can use F4 as soon as you are standing in a safe spot, so that when they go downstate, they are pulled to you the moment they are targetable. This also helps your transfusions start cooling down a little faster. Don't hesitate with your Signet of Undeath. Your life force generation is still adequate without it. If it can save a life, fire the ability without hesitation if they are out of range of your other skills. Torch 5 and Flesh Golem Charge are your hard CCs, Staff 5 Fear, Shade F4 Fear, and Scepter 2 Cripple, and Staff 3's Chill are your soft CCs. Remember that Epidemic will spread your conditions, which include soft CCs, to other enemies nearby. With Shade, your F2 cures conditions on nearby allies. I tend to just spam this as it has such a short cooldown. In most cases, you will spam F3 for more barriers, but sometimes you will want to save it for just the right moment. If you know a huge hit is coming in 5 seconds, wait a few seconds before using the barrier so it doesn't wear off before the hit comes. The greens on Veiled Guardian are a perfect example of this. As always, I want to say that I'm not claiming this is the best of the best of the best way to play Necro. This is a way to play Necro that I find devilishly fun, and is very reliable at getting through PvE content. Got bad teammates? Keep peeling them off the floor and hurling them at the boss like rubber bullets until the job is done and you stand successful atop their bruised and battered bodies. If you like this guide, please consider hitting the like button for the YouTube algorithm, comment if you have any tips or tricks I missed, and subscribe to see more similar content. If you'd like to go even further beyond, you can support us with the Amazon and Patreon links in the description. That's it for now, and happy— Who the hell are you? Whoop, 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 whoop.